All right, in this challenge, I give you the start code for a game library, and you're going to have to, I give you some of the code for the game library, and you're going to have to finish it off. You'll have to define a bunch of functions that are going to be useful to us. Okay, so here's the start code. You can use this URL to get it. I'll also put that in the video description. And let's take a look at what the start code is. Basically, in the HTML, we load our game library, and that's going to contain useful code that we can then use inside of our main.js. All right. Here's your game library. I'm going to do a little demo where I'll show you this in use, a finished version of this in use. But basically, we've got mouse coordinates, key pressed values, some useful functions like distance and constrain, points and rectangles, circles, rectangle collide, circle collide. Now, your job is to define these functions, right? Given a circle collide function that takes in two circle objects that must have x, y, and r properties, return true or false whether those circles collide or not. Here, rectangle collide take in two rectangle objects. They must have x, y, w, and h properties, width and height, and return true or false whether they collide or not. A point and circle will take in a point, right, x and y, x and y coordinates of a point, and then also a circle object, and return true or false if the point is in the circle or not. Point and rectangle, same thing, but a rectangle object. And then a constrained function, which basically will return a constrained value. So it takes in a value, and it will make sure that that value is between low and high. So if it's between low and high, it'll just return the value. But if the value is too low, it'll return low. If the value is too high, it'll return high. So this function will guarantee to give you a value between low and high. Okay? And then a dist function. And yeah, this mouse X, mouse Y, key press stuff I'll show in a second here. So this is the start code. And then here's a finished version of the game library. I have the dist function is completed. All these functions are completed. And I'm going to show you these things in action. So first up, I guess I should open this with Live Server to make sure we can test this out. Let's open up our console here. An error message. Canvas is not defined. Oh, you know what? I think that's because I moved the mouse before. Well, anyway, it should be fine now. There's just an issue because we defer on the main.js, and inside of main.js is where we declare canvas. And in the game library, I access canvas right here. So anyway, as long as it should be fine. Like you could, I guess, to be safe, maybe I guess we could add a defer onto this as well. But that should be fine. If you come into problems, come talk to me. Okay, so in the main.js, I just initialize my canvas. I have a player1 variable, which is a blue rectangle, a player2 variable, which is a green circle, a block, which is a rectangle, a ball, which is a circle, and then all I do right now is I draw the frame. Right, I got my draw function, and it just calls this function to draw all the components. Okay, and we can see that here. My blue player, my green player, block, and a ball. Okay, and it looks like an exclamation mark. Fun. All right, so to see this game library in use, let's actually start by going here, and let's draw the mouse coordinates to the screen. Okay, so in my game library, we've got mouse X and mouse Y that gets updated based on the position of the mouse. So in my main.js, I'm just going to set a font to be 20 pixels, Arial, let's say, and then go maybe a fill style to be black, and then we'll do a fill, a fill text, and I want to print out, I'm going to use backticks, and I just want to print out mouse X, right, those variables, and mouse Y. And let's just display them at 50/50 for now. So save that, and you'll see now, okay, there's my mouse X and my mouse Y. As I move mouse X, mouse Y, X increases, Y decreases. Cool. And if I wanted to make this even cooler, whoops, wrong one, I could, instead of drawing them at 50/50, actually draw that text at mouse X, mouse Y. Okay, and this is just to show you that because of our game library, we have access to mouse X and mouse Y as global variables inside of our main.js, and they will be the coordinates of the mouse. Yay! Okay, next up in our game library is this key press variable. This one's really cool. When a key goes down, I'm just going to add a console.log key pressed, and also we'll add that when the key up happens. And what's really cool with this one is I'm going to hit the space key, and when I hit it, oh, I pressed it down and then I released it. So key press starts as empty, but as soon as I hit the space key down, it added a property with that code, space, and assigned it to be true. When I released it, it used the code as the property name and set it to false. If I press arrow left, same thing. It added an arrow left property, set it to true. When I release it, arrow left became false. So whatever keys get pressed, it'll just add it to this object, and then the true or false will be set based on key down and key up. So how can I use this? Well, let's go into here, into my logic section, and let's move player 1. So I can just use my key press variable, and then I use square brackets to access the property that I'm looking for, which in this case is arrow left, let's say. And if key pressed with the code arrow left is equal to true, then I can tell my player1.x to go plus equals -5. Well, or subtract 5, whatever. Okay. Else if key pressed arrow right, then we want player1.x plus equals +5. And we can do this for all the different keys. Let's go arrow up. And on arrow up, we want to go player1.y plus equals -5. And last but not least, key pressed arrow down would be player1.y plus equals +5. Okay, so if this is true, right, if this property, arrow left property of key pressed is true, then I can do this. If arrow right is true, I'll do this. And hopefully I can now move this player around. Yay! Okay, we can get rid of the console.logs in here. We don't need that anymore. Okay, good. And then it would be easy enough to just copy and paste this. And instead of arrow left, we could do key, if I want to move left, that would be key A. And key to the right would be key D. And then key, this is going up, would be W. Yep. And then key S would be going down, and change player 1 to player 2. And now I should have movement with WASD for the green player. Yay! Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's that key pressed. So mouse X and mouse Y and key pressed, very useful variables. Now let's get into the functions. I'm not going to use the dist one right now. That should be pretty straightforward. But the constrain one. So again, the constrain one takes in a value and returns that value so that it's between the range low and high. All right. This comes in useful, for example, after I move player 1. Well, let's say player 1, I don't want player 1 to go off the canvas. So player1.x should be between 0 and between the width of the canvas minus the width of the player, right? 750, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah, because the canvas is 800 and the player has a width of 50. All right, so what do I want to do? I want to go player1.x is assigned constrain. And what do I want to constrain? I want to constrain player1.x. And I want to make sure player1.x is between 0 and the width of the canvas minus the width of the player, which is 800 minus 50, 750. Okay, so player1.x needs to be between 0 and 750. And if it's not, right, if it's too small, it'll make it 0. If it's too big, it'll make it the highest value. And it'll return that value, which we then assign into player1.x. And simply with that one line of code, I can now stop, oh, not that way. My stop constrain the player from leaving the canvas horizontally. And the Y direction is the same. except we would go player1.y, player1.y, and then canvas.height, and player1.height. And that should stop the player from leaving this way as well, and on that side, and up here. Awesome. Okay, now that's the constrain. Now point in rectangle and point in circle. They take in a point, x and y coordinates of a point, and then the rectangle object, which needs x, y, width, and height. So this block is a rectangle object. So all I want to do here is in the logic section, we'll just go down here, check for the point. Let's just use the mouse coordinates. Check if mouse is in block. So if point in rectangle, and I need an x, which is mouse x, I need a y, which is mouse y, so that's my point, and then the rectangle will be my block variable. And if that returns true, it means that this is in the block. So let's just do something like body dot, oh hello, that's not what I wanted to do, body dot style dot background color is assigned black, let's say, else body is assigned, well, let's go red. Actually, let's do green and red. That'll be fun. Green will mean that it is in the rectangle. Red means that it is not in the rectangle. Let's see if that works. Body is not defined. Oh, of course, because I need to do document.body. And that's a, you can access the body of your HTML. That's a built-in variable. And that should hopefully work now. Yeah, there's my red. And then, yay, once the point is in the block, right, then it's green. When it's out, it's red. Well, that's really bad colors. I don't like that. Okay, sorry, that's painful. Let's just go with a nice gray and a white. Sorry, those colors were killing me there. Oh, gray means it hides. Oh, that's fun. Okay, cool. All right, that works. Okay, and then I'm just going to comment this. Actually, let's just change it. Check if mouse is in the ball we can do as well. And that would be point in circle function, mouse x, mouse y, and then I need a circle object that has an x, y, and an r. And let's just change this to a different color. Is there such a thing as light gray? Let's try that. Yay, there it is. Okay, so point in that circle object, and we can recognize and change the color. Okay, cool. So that's point in rectangle, point in circle, and then there's rectangle collide and circle collide. This function just takes in two rectangle objects that have to have an x, y, width, and height. And this one takes in two circle objects, x, y, and r for radius. Okay, let's try those. So let's do this and just say, hey, if rectangle collide, well, what rectangles do I have? Player 1 is a rectangle object, and the block is a rectangle object. So I just pass in player 1 as my rect1, block as my rectangle 2. If they collide, it'll return true and make it light gray. Otherwise, it'll be white. Okay, so let's move this guy around, and moment of truth. Uh-oh. No, what's going on? Okay, hold on. Oh, I think I just didn't save. Classic mistake. Control S, and now I move, and oh yeah, there it is. Collide, collide, collide. Yay! Okay, cool. And then circle collide, and then player 2 is a circle object, and the ball is a circle object, and the same thing, I save it this time, and WASD to move, and when they collide, yay! Okay, so that's the game library. Okay, game library. It has useful stuff in it, right? A mouse X, mouse Y, a key pressed, these helper functions, which we looked at in detail. Your job is to actually write the code for these functions in the start code, right? In the start code, I give you the mouse X, mouse Y, and key press stuff, so you can use that. But these helper functions are empty in the start code. I figure it's good practice for you to understand how those work. So that's your challenge. Get these functions working, test them out, and they should prove very useful in the upcoming challenges and any programs you make. Okay, hope that made sense. Take care and see you in the next video.